Well, look, President Trump's an idiot. He's not like a smart person, and he ends up getting a lot of his talking points from Fox and Friends. And I can't believe that's actually something that I have to report, but it's actually true. Let me give you an example. Earlier this morning, Fox and Friends had a segment where they talked to UKIP leader Nigel Farage. Now, it turns out over the weekend, the UK had a series of marches over the National Health Service. Now, that's, of course, their universal healthcare service, which, again, covers everybody in the UK. And I will add, at about half the cost that we do here in America. Now, according to reports, thousands of people marched in London over the weekend to protest health service budget cuts and restraints proposed by the Tories. Now, I want to show you a picture here of some of these protests. So there's one of the pictures, right? NHS, more funding. You can see close the gap. Our NHS is here to stay. So look, that's what the protest looks like. And I wanted to give you that context because I'm about to give you a Donald Trump tweet. Now, following that segment on Fox News, Trump tweeted out, "The Democrats are pushing for universal health care, while thousands of people are marching in the UK because their U system is going broke and not working. Dems want to greatly raise taxes for really bad and non-personal medical care. No thanks." First off, that would be fantastic if the Democrats actually push for universal health care, which we know they are not, because a lot of Democrats put health insurance profits over regular people. I mean, Bernie Sanders, for example, has a health care plan out, and he does not have, there is no reason that every Democrat, or nearly every Democrat, hasn't signed on to it. It's because, again, the Democrats are unfortunately purchased by pharmaceutical companies to be hurt by a single-payer system, and health insurance companies, which would also be hurt by a single-payer system. So, again, let me put it in terms I think my British audience would understand. Donald Trump is a goddamn twat waffle. He's a fucking cockwomble, right? He's an orange-faced shit gibbon. That is why. That is not why they are marching. They are not marching because they hate the UK system and want to switch to an American system. That is not why they are marching. No, they're marching to save it. The Tories have instituted massive cuts to the NHS. That is a huge, huge problem. And the Tories, of course, are the conservatives over in the UK. Now, here comes Jeremy Corbyn. Our man Jezza, man. He says, quote, in a tweet, "Wrong. People were marching because we love our NHS and hate what the Tories are doing to it. Healthcare is a human right." Boom. Look, if you ask a Brit, and I have, I know a few of them, and look, I know I have at least a decent amount of followers overseas. For example, got some viewers in the UK, got some great viewers in Australia. I love you guys. You're always telling me in the comments and stuff that our system of healthcare in America is barbaric. And that while no system is perfect, what you have is actually a hell of a lot better than what we have in the United States, and that you would not trade it for our system at all. And look, okay, what's interesting about this is since, okay, Trump gets set straight, of course. Now, what's interesting is before Donald Trump started getting his talking points from Fox and Friends and Republican strategists, he was actually more in favor of a single-payer system. In fact, then President-elect Trump said in an interview early last year that his health care plan would include insurance for everybody. He said to the Washington Post, "We're going to have insurance for everybody. There was a philosophy in some circles that if you can't pay for it, you don't get it. That's not what's going to happen with us." Well, if you look at the GOP healthcare plan that failed spectacularly earlier this year, or I'm sorry, late last year, It didn't do that. It actually caused more people, millions more people, or would have caused millions more people to lose their insurance. That is definitely not universal. That is definitely not for everyone. So what he was saying sounded a lot like universal health care. Now, let me give you another example. In a press conference with the Australian Prime Minister, he had said, quote, "We have a failing healthcare. I shouldn't say this to our great gentleman and my friend from Australia because you have better healthcare than we do." You know what kind of healthcare Australia has? Universal healthcare. They even call it Medicare. Now, apparently it's funded partly by a 2% levy on all taxpayers. And some who are poorer can obviously try to reduce or get out of paying that tax. But they have everyone covered. And I hear it's actually pretty decent health care. And they even have some private insurance companies that fill the gap of what the government doesn't actually cover. In fact, most countries have a similar kind of system, with small differences, of course. Now, not only that, but if you're to believe the book, Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff, he had asked aides, quote, "Why can't Medicare simply cover everybody?" Look, if that was a quote alone, maybe you could think, okay, well, like that book, it's kind of trashy. Don't necessarily believe anything in it. That's fair. But based on some of the stuff that he said before, I absolutely believe that this is 100% true, that he had asked this question. Look, the concept is so simple, even a moron like Donald Trump can get it. Universal health care, Medicare, expand it to everybody. If it's good enough for people over 65, why is it not good enough for everybody else? And yes, I do realize that Medicare does need to be expanded in what it actually covers. Now, if you have, as this is a national health service, right? Medicare for everybody, then, well, most doctors, and again, I get this argument a lot. Yeah, but a lot of doctors won't take Medicare. Well, if they're pretty much the only provider in the country, they're going to have to take Medicare. So that kind of solves that problem. And of course, expand it to covering things that it doesn't necessarily cover right now. But that would be part of the Bernie Sanders healthcare plan. And it's all in there. Medical, obviously medical insurance, but dental, vision, things like that. Maternity care, all that. Even abortion services as well. And I know a couple of right-wingers' heads just exploded on that. But look, if you don't believe any of that, and if you don't believe the book, fine, okay. Well, why don't we go to Donald Trump's own book? The one he wrote back in, or allegedly wrote back in 2000, called The America We Deserve. And he said, quote, "We must have universal health care. Just imagine the improved quality of life for our society as a whole." There's no way he wrote that. Adding, "The Canadian-style single-payer system in which all payments for medical care are made to a single agency as opposed to the large number of HMOs and insurance companies with their diverse rules, claim forms, and deductibles helps Canadians live longer and healthier than Americans." Now, why would Donald Trump say that back when he was just a business owner? I thought Medicare for all would be terrible for a business owner. No, it turns out if you do a single-payer system, that actually helps employers. They actually save money because they would no longer be responsible for their employees' health care. Again, that saves them a lot of money and a lot of hassle as well. So if you were a business owner, if you're somebody within the private sector, and you don't have to cover healthcare anymore, that's fantastic. You're like, yes, that's great for business. That's great for us. So it would make sense that Donald Trump, as a businessman, would be in support of a single-payer system. Now, finally, he even held up the Scottish system when he was talking about, when he was in the campaign talking on Letterman. He said, "A friend of mine was in Scotland recently. He got very, very sick. They took him by ambulance, and he was there for 4 days. He was really in trouble, and they released him, and he said, 'What do I pay?' And they said, 'There's no charge.'" Not only that, kind of addressing the argument against single payer. Well, I mean, you're going to have crappy doctors, government doctors, right? He said, quote, "It was like great doctors, great care. I mean, we could have a great system in this country. We could. Gee, I wonder why you're not in support of Bernie Sanders' Medicare for all. Look, this proves two things, right? That Trump, I think deep down, actually thinks that, or knows, maybe on an instinctual level, that single payer is just better. And that two, he would lie about it because, again, Fox and Friends and all of his Republican advisors actually tell him to do so. Look, if you're wondering who actually runs the White House, it's not Donald Trump. It's not, I was going to say Steve Bannon, but he's gone. It's not John Kelly. It's not any of his advisors. No. It's Fox and Friends. And that should worry everyone. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.